Welcome to IBIS Weather. This is Sarah. This is the update for January 29th, 2026. Today we're going to get started talking about Winter Storm Gianna, which would be a nor'easter or a bomb cyclone that will come and make impacts for the southeast all the way up possibly into New England and of course the Mid-Atlantic, which is in between the South and New England, come this weekend. So right now we're kind of looking at any watches, warnings, and advisory display. You do see it starting to fill in, not quite as bad as it did this time last week. More areas right now are just kind of in a cold weather advisory as this Arctic air will be coming in behind the storm. We do see a freeze warning for Mississippi, which may experience some snow tomorrow, possibly as it kind of juices up the atmosphere as the cold air plunges through. There is a winter storm watch from southern Virginia all the way down to a little bit into Georgia, including a little bit more inland of the coastal plain close to Savannah. Um, then just again, kind of a cold weather watch being issued for rest of Georgia and into Florida. So that is definitely possible. There's also some ice watches and warnings. It looks like for portions of West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And of course, those some of those advisories go up to Mid Atlantic and New England. Of course, we see a little bit also over there by Minnesota and North Dakota. Okay, so what are the key messages from the National Weather Service here? Obviously, we're talking about major winter storm. Again, this one is named Winter Storm Gianna. That is not named by the National Weather Service. That is named by the Weather Channel. But we're kind of going with the name because it's easier to kind of keep track of them, especially since this is the third one that we are seeing for this month of this year. So it's just kind of nice when you have names for them to kind of go off. Plus, people probably will kind of Google those names for historical purposes as well. So that's why we're going with that name. But again, this will be considered a nor'easter or a bomb cyclone. For those who are not familiar with that, those are systems that particularly are, if you think about it, they are really not that much different from a hurricane, except instead of bringing rain, it brings the risk of snow, ice, sleet. In this case, it looks like it's going to be a snow event, not ice or sleet, which is good, but still, some people could get some pretty big impacts with snow, which we're going to be talking about here right now. But it is very similar to that, meaning that you could have coastal flooding, you're going to have high winds, probably not going to be the type of day you want to be on the beach. Even if you don't get snow on the beach, the wind will make it very miserable and very cold because, again, we're talking about an Arctic air blast coming in behind the system, unfortunately. So it's going to be very cold with possible wind chills for a lot of areas in the single digits, possibly even maybe in the negatives the further north you go up the East Coast, and of course more into the central part of the central plains of this country as well, as it kind of dips through, not really touching the west side of the country. So that is something to be aware about. So as you can look at this map, we do see the greatest risk right now is mostly just North Carolina into South Carolina. They have the highest chances between 70 to about 50%. Charleston down to Savannah looks like that they have anywhere from 20 to 5%. And that kind of goes on more into the Savannah River up to the mid part, the mid part up to a little bit of the northeast uh, corner, if you will, or the very north side of Georgia. There, and then of course we see it for Tennessee, um, Kentucky, West Virginia and Virginia, and then Delmar all the way up to southern New England as well has a risk of it. So right now, the greatest risk again is mostly just a Carolina event with some of Virginia getting it. So we are talking about a rapidly deepening storm. So again, like I said, if you think about it as like a hurricane, again, talking about wind, wind and moisture, high winds, it's going to be very miserable for most people over there. So, like, as I mentioned yesterday, you think of a hurricane as having categories. They don't necessarily have categories for a nor'easter or a bomb cyclone, as they're often called, but they're still a very similar system in terms of the nature of them kind of having a center and the bands around it. They just don't rotate necessarily, and also they bring snow or ice with them. Again, this is a snow event, not an ice storm, so that's good news. It's not as big as what we saw last weekend. Greatest risk will be from Friday night through Saturday night, producing possible widespread heavy snow and wind from the southern Appalachians across the Carolinas into southern Virginia, where there is a risk for more than 8 inches of snow, or is over 50%. And then the risk for more than 8 inches, or I should say, is near 30% for southeast Massachusetts on Sunday. So we'll kind of see if that will grow tomorrow as we go. Again, it does look like that the system might sort of pull away and kind of skate off the coast, the rest of the East Coast, which would be good news, but still snow can be expected. We'll talk about blizzard potential. As I mentioned, since this is really not that much different from a hurricane, if you think about it, with the wind and the heavy snow, that does lead to possible blizzard conditions all the way from the Outer Banks to Delmarva, unfortunately. So it will be very miserable. Coastal flooding potential is also possible from the Outer Banks to Virginia. So, with the wind and the waves, there will be high waves and the wind pushing, kind of having the onshore flow, much again like we see with a tropical system. Obviously, that means that that risk is there. And then, of course, it's also possible for moderate coastal flooding up to the northeastern seaboard as it tracks north northeast. And then, of course, very cold weather. Low wind chills are expected through the storm that linger through Tuesday because of the polar vortex, unfortunately. So those are some key messages on that. And then the key messages about for the prolonged extreme cold. So this is while the main event here is again talking about the possible nor'easter bomb cyclone, winter storm Gianna, if you will be mostly a Carolina, Virginia thing with, possible reaching implications, including I wouldn't be surprised if we got some waves over there in Florida, and of course the Georgia coast. And then of course like the Charleston Bay area might get it, and of course I would say Maryland and Virginia will probably see that as well. We are talking about extreme cold. As you can see over here, it does show the lowest temperatures through February 2nd, which is Monday. Um, Minnesota and North Dakota could be -25 to -20 to the 15th or 10. So very, very cold. Dallas, -10, -15, or not negative, sorry, 10 degrees, 15 or 20, so not quite at the single digits. And then, of course, if you go up to Mid Atlantic and New England, again, we're talking about negative degrees, so it's going to be very cold because this is an Arctic blast that's going to come through the northern plains tonight and crossing the Midwest. Oops, I did not mean to hit that. Apologies. That is going to be very, very cold, unfortunately. That means we might see um, continued power outages as the system's trying to get the power back up for some of the areas that were hit last week. And then, of course, on some of the coastal areas this weekend may have power outages from, again, possible wind. So be prepared for extreme cold. Again, we're talking about sub-zero chill. Wind chills are possible Friday night. That's tomorrow night. For the south, daily record lows are expected over to upper Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic, and then, of course, coming down to the southeast Saturday, including across Florida Sunday through Monday. So it's going to be very cold. Florida, obviously, you guys could have falling iguanas. Again, they're not dead. Their bodies are not used to the cold, and they kind of freeze temporarily and shut down. So you do see them falling out of trees, unfortunately. And again, make sure you guys are prepared for extreme cold if you do plan on going outside over the weekend into early next week. And if you are in an area without power, try to find out warming sensors if you have any nearby. If you have other ways to stay, like a car that you can kind of use to heat up, make sure it's, not in an enclosed garage. If you have a generator, make sure you have the gas and have that safely away from any enclosed space of your home as well. And make sure to check on your neighbors and the less fortunate who will be also dealing, including human and animals, for this extreme cold. So let's go ahead and get back to Winter Storm Gianna. We're going to look at the GFS total snowfall. So this is starting at today, 6 p.m. Thursday. Nothing. Start seeing a little bit of snow more in the northern part of the country. See a little bit over there in the Ohio valleys, and it just kind of continues to build in. So you start seeing it impacting West Virginia and Tennessee, North Carolina. Continues to build until by 6 a.m. Saturday. Keeps building, building. Definitely seeing the snow building more over there in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. A little bit into Georgia by 6 a.m. Sunday. That includes all the way down there by Hinesville and Savannah, possibly. And we just see it continue to build up, will possible up to 13 inches um, in over there on North Carolina, not too far inland from their southern portion of their coastline. And then come Monday at midnight, that does look like it's kind of stopped. Don't see a whole lot of snow again on this one for the East Coast, a little bit over there in New England, but from the Mid Atlantic up to New England, not a whole lot. So that would be good news. So it is looking like that the GFS is thinking it's going to pull away from the coast. Let's go ahead and see the Euro version of this. So this again is for Thursday today at 6 p.m. If we go forward, start seeing the snow Friday night to Saturday morning, building into Tennessee, West Virginia, and Virginia. See it growing, so you can kind of see this is where they have the low pressure at 10:11 for its barometric measurements in the center of it by 6 a.m. Saturday. And the snow builds in and moves. We do see it lower pretty dramatically throughout Saturday over here as it kind of rides up the coast. So at 9:98 Saturday at 6 p.m., where you definitely have snow pretty much covering all of South Carolina, a good portion of Georgia, and most of North Carolina. A little bit of a dry pocket right there by Myrtle Beach and where the North Carolina South Carolina border meets. Rain well offshore because obviously the salt in the air does make it a little more difficult for it to freeze and have snow. Um, as we go into Sunday, we see it continue starting to pick up and lift. And by 9/7, it will be central barometric pressure will be 974, it says, for 9 a.m. Sunday. Pulls away from South Carolina and Georgia. It starts kind of skimming up the coast, pulling away from Virginia and North Carolina, just scraping mid Atlantic to New England's coast until Monday. Throughout Monday. So that's what the Euro showing. Again, Canadian model, we started showing this yesterday as this was showing some snow. Again, more snow impacting like a little bit further south into Georgia. So this again is starting today at 6 p.m. Let's go forward. Start seeing snow build into again Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. Start seeing the snow building and more. So by midnight come Sunday, up to 4 inches possible over there in Virginia. And then snow expands further down to again kind of along the a little bit inland from the Savannah River into including northwest northern Georgia over there by Sunday at 6 a.m. And then we see it by Monday again kind of pulling out and not really showing again much snow over there by New England and Mid Atlantic. So again, this is GFS. Oh, I thought this was the Canadian. Hmm. Let's go ahead and pull up the Canadian then. Okay, let's go all the way back then. So if we look again, it's starting at 12 a.m. Friday. They're when they kind of run it, it's a little bit different off from like what the GFS and Euro does. So that's why the hours kind of vary over here. So again, come Saturday morning around midnight, start seeing the snow over there in Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, North Tennessee. Kind of starts building into North Carolina and the Carolinas by 8 or 6 p.m. Saturday. A good portion of Georgia is covered in snow. It continues to go down to the coast over there with a bit of a dry pocket by Brunswick on midnight on Sunday. Kind of fills out more. You definitely see heavier snow over there by the Outer Banks and east of the Delmarva area. And then you see it kind of going up, so we start seeing it kind of getting close to the mid Atlantic, but again, kind of just coasting off of the coastline there, and including into New England as well, come by Monday morning. So that's interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and look for the Euros instantaneous precipitation right over here and see what happens. So starting again today at 6 p.m. Go forward. Start seeing snow Friday at 3 over there into Kentucky. Dipping a little bit into Virginia and Tennessee. A little bit of rain over there in South Carolina. 3 a.m. Saturday. Snow building in more into North Carolina and Tennessee, and starting to dip into Georgia and the upstate South Carolina come noon Saturday. We see it kind of continue to build in more, including reaching the coast by midnight Sunday and going more up from all of South Carolina, most of North Carolina into coastal Virginia. And then we see it starting to pull away from South Carolina and Georgia and skimming North Carolina and Virginia, and then continues to go northeast and kind of coast mid-Atlantic into New England. This one does show New England getting a little bit more activity than some of the others. Let's go ahead and pull up the next one. Okay, here is a Canadian model. So again, showing today at 6 p.m. Thursday. This is a 6-hour average precipitation rate. So we'll go through tomorrow, seeing some snow over there in Mid-Atlantic and the Great Lakes, working its way up to the New England coastline. This, okay, so this, oh, that was, I'm sorry, had it all the way to the future. Let's go all the way. I wonder why it wasn't showing for us here. So, okay. Okay, so started today at 6 p.m. today, working towards start seeing it form over there. Saturday by 12, so you start seeing snow, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, a little bit into South Carolina by 6 p.m. Saturday. Definitely seeing it work its way more into Georgia. And then it continues to go all the way down the coast, so pretty much all of South Carolina, pretty much all of the entire length of the Savannah River by midnight Sunday. Start pulling away from Georgia and South Carolina come Sunday. By 6 p.m. Sunday, you see it starting to move away from any of the coast, so kind of skating by without any much precipitation for anywhere. Again, that is a Euro model. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. And this is the GFS one. So again, this one starts at midnight tomorrow. So in about 6 hours. Let's go forward. Start seeing moisture building up again. So probably because you can expect snow starting tomorrow night into Saturday morning over there in Virginia, West Virginia, kind of the borders of North Carolina and Tennessee. Let's continue to see that continue to grow in by 6 p.m. Saturday. Again, good portion of South Carolina and most of North Carolina and to Georgia. See, this one does show it going down the coast again, so coastal regions possibly gain snow as well by 6 a.m. Sunday. And then it pulls away from the coast and skims over there by the North Atlantic coast of um, Canada. So nothing too crazy. Let's go ahead and look at this. So, snowfall probability forecast from the National Weather Service. So, we are seeing snow over there in kind of the northern plains, and then also seeing snow again, mostly for North Carolina, a little bit in South Carolina and Virginia, and then lower chances for all points north of that. And then there's lower chances for portions of Georgia. Let's see, this was put out, and this is valid from Sunday to Monday. And this is possible for more than an inch 24-hour. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. It does expand out on Sunday. So again, North Carolina being the main event here. Seeing a little bit more for South Carolina and Georgia. That is by Sunday at 6 p.m. Sunday at 12. Pretty similar, I would say. 6 a.m. Sunday, again, pretty similar. Midnight at Sunday, so it doesn't grow. Still most main event in North Carolina. Again, mostly North Carolina, Virginia by Saturday at 6 p.m. Starts smaller by noon. Again, kind of over there at the Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee border. Again, kind of starting over there, starting from midnight Saturday. Let's look at some of the possible snowfall totals here. So this is a euro. So this is for Sunday at, let's see, 18Z, so that would be 6 p.m. So you do definitely see snow. Again, most of the event being more of the heavy snow staying offshore from the Mid-Atlantic to New England. But you definitely see snow covering pretty much all of North Carolina and South Carolina. Again, going somewhat to Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and to Georgia. Even having some risk of snow flurries over there in a good portion of southeast Georgia. This one is the GFS. So very again, quite similar. This one does show more heavy snow for North Carolina's coastline, and then kind of again keeping the heavier snow pretty much well off the coast from Mid Atlantic up to New England. Again, a little bit of a dry pocket over there by the Hilton Head Savannah area, and a little bit more heavy snow in the Appalachians, which I would not be surprised since mountains do have a tendency to bring more snow. And then this is the Canadian one, which is quite interesting. It doesn't look like it necessarily loaded all the way here, but this one definitely shows the heaviest snow being over there in Virginia and North Carolina, leaving coastal South Carolina out of it, and of course most of Georgia out of it as well. But does show snow more for Mid Atlantic up to New England. So again, these are not the or not the official forecast. These are model runs. Things will change between now and by Saturday, Sunday. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Obviously, regarding the risk of snow, but definitely, I would say if you are indeed in any of the winter storm warned areas, so from Southern Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, please make sure by tomorrow you guys do have all your preps done ahead of time. Um, we'll have to wait and see what it does. It's hard to be able to predict where the moisture will come in. How close will the system ride the coast on the southeast? Where will it form? Um, those are just hard to pinpoint just by the nature of what they are. You saw the issues we had last week with the snow predictions. The system moved more north, so areas that did not get as much snow as they thought was, kind of annoyed and frustrated, feeling like it was hype. So these things are difficult to predict. I mean, even with hurricane season, it's difficult to predict. Tornadoes are also notoriously hard to predict. Weather as a whole is. I say the good thing about models is it kind of shows you the possibility that something might happen, but a model is just a model. It's not the actual forecast. Now, while the National Weather Service puts out their forecast and can things shift and change and things, storms do their own movements, as we saw with Winter Storm Fern, what we've seen with hurricanes before, it does happen. But it doesn't hurt to be prepared anyhow. So please listen and take heed, get your preps done ahead of time, and we'll continue to monitor this as we go forward. And I will talk to you guys later. Thank you.